Save the Semantics, episode 103. It is February 28th, 2020. My name is Myro. This is the podcast where I just kind of ramble on about shit. Things that I've been interested and things that have kept my mind busy, maybe. Who knows? It's been a little while since I've last recorded. I realize that. Just haven't really. It's my excuse is I haven't really had the time to go out and record. But no, I really haven't had anything significant to talk about, and sometimes I'd rather just not force conversation or whatever. It's not really a conversation because I'm talking to myself. But I didn't really want to force just me talking, and I felt like the last few episodes it's kind of felt that way, where I was just kind of going on about really nothing in a sense. I mean, that's just the entire podcast in general, but I don't know, at least for the last couple of episodes I felt like I had my input has been weak. I haven't had anything really significant going on, or really anything significant that I've consumed to really warrant me talking about anything. So yeah, that's why I kind of decided to set aside some time, do some soul searching, I guess. I don't know. It's been a kind of a hectic couple of weeks. Not necessarily in my life, but in general. I've just kind of been saying this like just to everyone. It's just like everyone's like, how's it going? I'm like, it's been good, just not around me. It's just been this fucking whirlwind of shit, just kind of going everywhere recently. At least that's what it's felt like. Like, I think everyone's just kind of on edge, coronavirus. It's kind of still going on around the world. U.S. The U.S.'s response has been more or less incompetent, or that's what people have said. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's reason for sort of that overall general anxiety and fear and all that shit. And it kind of coming down to sort of the local level as well. My university has been on strike for the last couple of weeks, so that's caused some division among students and fellow just faculty members and that kind of thing. So that's been going on while I've been sort of trying to just kind of abide and ride the waves, if you will. It's just been a lot, but I've been all right for the most part. Just kind of been doing the same old, just trying to keep similar routine. Nearly reaching the end of this quarter. I got a couple more weeks to go, and then it's almost there. It's just getting closer and closer every day. Every day is just kind of it just kind of goes, which is sort of cause for concern for me, I guess, because then that's when I start to feel like I'm oh shit, I gotta figure shit out, even if I do have things more or less mapped out to how I want it. There's always kind of the what is it? There's always sort of that I really can't. Sometimes I just can't think of the fucking word. It's not dismay, it's not disarray, it's sort of the, it's not anxiety, because I already used that. It's the anticipation, maybe? No, it's just the, it's just the general unknown, I guess. There's always that unknown factor that you can't really, that's always kind of there. It's okay, what if this goes wrong, or what if this doesn't necessarily add up or work out in my advantage, there's always these things that kind of pops up, when you're okay, well, the things are working out, but are they working out? What if they don't work out here? What if they don't work out now? They might be working out now, but what happens later? It's just it's, I've tried to kind of be okay, just enjoy the moment for now, things are probably going to get even more hectic as time goes along, so just try to enjoy what you can, in a sense. So yeah, I've been kind of just doing that. Been watching some shows here and there. I recently started back up Attack on Titan. It's been a very long time since I started watching that. I think it's been like 5, 6 years. Because I remember the last time I watched it was like in high school. Sometime in high school, I watched the first episode. I was just going through it because it was pretty damn well made. And I'm finally kind of catching up this second season. It has a sort of a slower start, I guess, maybe. But I think I'm like on episode 5 or 6 now, and it's sort of gotten interesting, you know. I might have spoiled myself some aspects of the show just because I've looked up things about it, you know. But I'm trying to keep, regardless of whether I've spoiled things for myself or not, I still, feel like I can enjoy the majority of the show. I think the final season's coming out this year as well. There's a lot of good shit coming out this year. I basically just went through all the good shows, like the last few months, like I watched like Promised Neverland, I watched ReZero, I watched, Mob Psycho. I've been kind of keeping track with My Hero Academia. So there's just a lot of shit that I've just been like consuming that have been just really top tier. So that I've just kind of been like spoiled by that in some regards. But yeah, just going back to Attack on Titan, I think from what I've heard, like the third season is a lot better than the second one. But I've enjoyed the second one so far. It's been pretty interesting. I think one of the strongest parts about that show is definitely just like the world building, like they give us enough information where it's like, okay, I can kind of understand like the mechanics of this world. It's sort of it's sort of like, it's sort of steampunky, you could say, because you have the gadgets where you're sort of flying through the air and that kind of thing, but you also have like guns and that sort of thing. I guess steampunk sort of fits sort of in that kind of vein, so it's definitely pretty interesting to say the least. And of course the Titans themselves, it's like there's that whole mystery behind that, which is probably going to get revealed later on in the show. Yeah, I think it's just been very, really well done, and I think it deserves to have the success that it's gotten. And I've been enjoying it so far, so that's that. I've also kind of like fell down a little bit of like a MLM rabbit hole recently, like with like multi-level management, pyramid schemes, that sort of thing, just because like it's just something that's just kind of popped up in like my feed or whatever. And I watched this one documentary called Bet on Zero. I think that's what it was called. Essentially, it's this one dude named Bill Ackman. He's like a Wall Street investor or hedge fund manager or whatever the fuck. And he essentially bet against Herbalife because he considered it to be a pyramid scheme, which I think he is correct in that regard. I don't like. I think he seems like a competent enough dude. I mean, like if I'm just talking about it right now, and I'm not really giving you a whole lot of context, but a lot of the documentary is a lot from kind of his perspective, but I think there's a lot of reasonable criticism that's also given to him throughout the documentary. Sort of the fact that he's a financial manager, so of course he's going to have that incentive. Like, is he doing it for financial gain? Like, yes, he is doing this kind of. He is essentially gambling against a large company for his own, personal profits and whatnot. But he also mentioned that he's going to donate that money to like charity and that kind of thing. I haven't really looked into like a whole lot into like what exactly happened after. I just know that Herbalife was filed like 200 million or something like that, which is probably chump change. The FTC filed that against them. I recommend watching the whole thing. I feel like me just kind of blabbing on about it isn't really going to give a whole lot of insight as to like the whole operation, what exactly went down. But it's interesting to say the least. I think that whole sphere of business with like MLMs and that kind of thing is just sort of like I feel like it's very much a product of just like the U.S. economy and political like system in general, maybe. Like I just think it's I don't know, like it's possible to kind of do that kind of thing in this country because of like the laws and sort of like the way life individuals like lifestyles are kind of formatted. Social media, of course, like a lot of these like MLMs kind of prop up on Facebook because that's where potential people are that can be sellers and customers and that kind of thing. I think it's just like, I don't know, like I feel like that's sort of the most like it's like a very indicative like element of just like this whole climate, which is why I kind of find it interesting, because like you can look at it through many different lenses. You can look at it from like the perspective of like the business side perspective. You're like, oh, this is just like a scummy business where like only the people at the top truly benefit from this, like hence the pyramid, the pyramid formation of the company. You could look at it from like a socioeconomic status where like these companies are sort of preying upon these like, just like people that just don't have like the resources to kind of combat that threat, or underprivileged individuals who don't have, the skills or the education to understand how pyramid schemes work. So therefore they're taken advantage of and essentially just become like a pawn for that type of system. You could look at it from, like the social media aspect, like just, the fact of how recruiting works, where like you have family members reaching out to other family members to see if they want to buy their fucking like Herbalife or like doTERRA product or whatever. So I feel like there's just a lot of different angles that you could look at it from for MLMs. I remember like in high school, I think there was one company called like Vector or something that was like people were talking about. I don't think it became like a huge thing, but I do remember a few people talking about it, and sort of like it was like the door like salesman. And I think like I might have mentioned it in a previous episode. I think that's like the closest that I've personally gotten to seeing that kind of thing in action, or like people are selling product that's like, I mean, I don't know, it's knives, like it might have been like an interesting product, but just sort of the way that it's like formatted, like the whole like salesman kind of thing is just very much, I don't know, unappealing to me in general, just because like it's not very, I mean, because I think for one, it doesn't really fit with like how I am as an individual. Like I can never see myself as like a car salesman or like any type of salesman. I'm not gonna like, I can't sell product for shit. Like I would not get any commissions. Like I would be fired immediately. Like I'd probably be like too honest about that kind of thing. It's just like, oh, this car is like this much money. Based on the way you're expressing things, it feels like you just probably can't afford it. Like no, I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna try to screw them out of their money. Like that's essentially what a salesman is, and I don't fuck with that. Like I feel like that whole, that entire job. Like no, I don't know, maybe no, not a whole. I want to say no disrespect, but it just feels scummy to be kind of in that position where you can potentially screw over people for money and that kind of thing. It's like I don't know, like it's hard to be like a business person. It really is. It's not easy to be like a good one too, for like good and like competent, and also being able to like sell enough product to make a profit, or sell your services at a level where you can make a profit and live by. Like it's not easy, for sure. Like I respect businesses that are able to do that, while also being like environmentally conscious, or be uh, pay their workers a livable wage and that kind of thing. Like I think there's a lot of there's a lot of companies that are a lot of the larger companies that don't really adhere to those kinds of ethical kind of like ethical business practices. It's hard. Like it's definitely not easy for sure. So yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of like a interesting thing. So which is why I also another reason just because like I find MLMs just interesting is just like the way they operate in general is just sort of like it's scummy because like it's essentially just taking advantage of someone already. There's like you can have hierarchy in like a corporation. Like I understand that. Like there has to be some form of structure in order for there to be movement and stuff. But like the way that MLMs are structured is just inherently it works because they sell you the idea so heavily that like people buy into it. Like they give you like these benefits and that kind of thing, and maybe like I don't know, customers are so drawn into the idea of the product that it's gonna give you like a healthier life and that kind of thing. Is maybe they're just they're just able to ignore all the other bullshit that's like going on in the background, So yeah, that's been kind of interesting looking at it. I've also watched like videos of like people talking about like their MLM experiences. There was this like one girl that fell into like 2 schemes, I think. I don't know if she was like heavily involved or anything like that, but there was like 2 different ones. I forgot exactly what the names they were. I think one was like a beauty product or beauty line, and then another one was like a travel service. Both kind of scummy business practices exhibited. So I don't know. It's just kind of it's an interesting thing to look at if you're ever interested. Just sort of like a weird sort of capsule into other people's lives, I guess you could say. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting learning about these like businesses because like for one, I personally don't use those types of products. Like I don't really. I mean, I use skincare, but I don't like care. Maybe I should. Maybe I should care more about like my general like health and that kind of thing. But like, I don't really purchase that many skincare products. Like, I think for guys it's a hell of a lot easier to like be like, okay, I'll just buy this lotion. It'll last me for like a year, and then I'm like good to go. Well, I think with women it's a lot more like, oh, you got to buy all these different products to kind of, fit into like a certain aesthetic. I'm not sure. I think I'm just kind of generalizing there, but I feel like guys have it a lot easier in terms of maintaining their skin or whatever, like, I mean, I use like lip balm sometimes and that kind of thing, but nothing else, much else, outside of just like lotion, so I don't know. I mean, there's like the essential oils shit, which, smells nice, but I just kind of don't really understand the difference between that and like a candle, like why can't you just get like a, scented candle? Are those things like unhealthy? Like, I don't know. Like, what's the reasoning like for like essential oils? I'm not really sure. Like, I've talked to people that do use essential oils, but I'm still not really like I'm not fully convinced for like the reasoning behind them using it. And aren't those things like expensive too? Maybe I need to do like my research. That's another thing like I forgot to mention for MLMs is that like for Herbalife, I guess specifically, is their products are incredibly expensive in comparison to other, like other like protein powders and shakes and that kind of thing. Like it's like why does it gotta be so expensive? Is it because it's inherently healthier? Like I don't know. Like it's just sort of, I don't know. It's weird. And like the fact, like the one part another part that got to me about that documentary was like they were mentioning how at least like the CEO was going on like talk shows and that kind of thing, and he was talking about like how Herbalife, it not only like sold healthy products, but it's also like it's also a great substitute for like a meal. And I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. And I'm glad, like, the people in the documentary are calling that shit out. I'm like, you can't, like, unless you're going on like a fucking, what is it, like one of those diets where you like where you're just juicing, then you can't call a smoothie a meal. And they were selling it to like, developing countries, like I think it was like Thailand or like Vietnam, and they were like saying like, oh, these countries, they don't have the resources, they don't have the same resources that we do. They're not getting sufficient dietary needs and that kind of thing. And this Herbalife protein shake will do just that. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. Like, you can't just like substitute a whole meal with this drink. And I'm like, and I feel like if you're just implementing that, like, to substitute a meal, I'm like, that can't be healthy. Like, you're just completely throwing in a different type of type of food into their diet system when they're probably not used to it. Like, because they have maybe, like, I don't know, like a calcium deficiency or whatever, doesn't mean that this like shake is gonna make up for it. And it's also not gonna make up for the fact that they're not having any of their other needs satisfied. Like, what the this is like, my god, that shit pissed me off. Like, it was just kind of ridiculous to even compare that. Like, you're not doing good, you're still selling product, like, I like, you're not like, it's not philanthropy if you're still making a profit, like, that's just such a false kind of like dichotomy to say. Like, it's just like, oh, we're doing a good thing by introducing this type of food into like the diets of these poor and deprived individuals. It's like, no, you're still selling them shit. They're still spending money in order to buy your product. Like, that's not how that works, right? If you want to make like an impact, you would like want to donate that money to these people, maybe like an organization or something within that country that's able to allocate goods, or allocate goods or funds, which then they're able to better provide for themselves, not fucking selling them product, like, that's just kind of ridiculous. I think it's just such a like outlandish statement to be like, oh, we're doing good because we're doing good things because we're giving this thing to them. It's like, you're not giving it to them, you're selling it to them by, essentially, like, it's not substituting. It's just not the same thing. So I'm glad they kind of brought that up in the documentary, with like kind of like a ridiculous ass statement. Also, like the the conventions for those things are very much like cult-like. They kind of remind me of like those like super evangelical churches, with like the giant sermon and like, what's his face? Oh man, can't think of his name. Like, the guy with the mega churches. I cannot think of his name right now. Like, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like Owen. I don't fucking know his name. Why can't I think of it? It's like my god. Can't think of anything today. Jesus Christ. But it's just like, it just reminds me of like people of like heads of like mega churches. Joel Osteen, that's his name. His whole shtick, right? Like, that's just kind of the vibe that I was getting from watching those footage from like the Herbalife conventions. It's just like, well, what the fuck is this shit? This is just like, why is everything so colorful? Like, it's I don't know. It was just kind of funny to look at, So that's what's been going on lately. Just been kind of going down this rabbit hole and learning about this world of pyramid schemes and scheming businesses and whatnot. So that's been interesting. I might be watching some more documentaries and shit like that too. I'll keep things updated. That's going to do it for the podcast today. You have been listening to Save the Semantics. Signing off.